Alright, so let's see. Here we see that if we first do a quick material count, black has a queen, 2 rooks, a knight and a bishop, and we have a queen, 2 rooks and a bishop. So we're down a knight, and we also see that we're about to get checkmated here, because black has a lot of pieces around our king. So we start looking for a counterattack very, very quickly. Do we have any checks? Well, we have a check with the queen. Right, we can go here to g4, g3, or g2, but then the king moves over, and we don't really have a follow-up. Right, so then the question becomes, okay, but what other checks do we have? We have rook to g1. The king is forced to move over here, and is there a difference? Right, well, if we move the rook to g1, then our queen is still on f3, and that enables us to go queen takes f6, which is checkmate, because the king on h8 doesn't have any squares, because the rook is covering this square over here. So let's go rook to g1, queen takes f6, checkmate. Alright. So already this one is looking pretty advanced, I would say. We've reached a rating of 800. So first things first, let's do a quick material count. We see that black has a queen, 2 rooks, 2 bishops, and a knight. Well, what do we have? We have a queen, 2 rooks, and 2 bishops. So we are down a knight. So we start looking, do we have any checks? Well, we can take over here, and we can take over here. Well, after queen takes f7, black can take, and we don't really have a follow-up. We can take here, black takes, we have bishop h6, but black still has a square over here, so that doesn't really seem to work. So, yeah, I do plan on uploading these on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, you guys. Hello, Jose. So we don't have any good checks. We don't have any good captures. So here's where the third forcing move comes into play, which is threats. Can we create any threats here? And ideally we want to create threats against the enemy king. Now we see that we have this queen over here, so ideally you want to create threats with the queen as well. So we see that we have the move bishop to h6, which attacks the rook with our queen, and it actually threatens checkmate. Can black protect the rook somehow? Well, black can go knight to g6, and then we start thinking, well, knight g6, black is protecting the rook. How do we get rid of that problem? We can remove the defender. We can take the knight over here, and if black takes, then we can take the rook on f8. Black still has the move queen e7, but at the very least we can win back material. Thanks Itsibo for the 15 months, appreciate it. But at the very least we win back material, and actually after that whole sequence we are up material. It's the best thing I can see right off the bat, so I think it's what we should go for. So let's go bishop to h6, and I think that should win us the game. So let's go bishop to h6, there's knight g6, we capture the knight, and we win. So this one was already a lot more difficult. This one, however, should be pretty straightforward. We should be familiar with this pattern by now. Let's do a quick material count. White is a queen, 2 rooks, bishop and a knight. We have a queen and 2 rooks, so we're down a bishop and a knight. That's a lot of material. Do we have any checks? Well, we have queen f2, white goes king h1. Now, once again, we know that this king on h1 is kind of blocked in by its own pawns, so we start looking for a back rank checkmate. We have 2 checks. We can take here, however then white takes the queen. So we also have queen f1, white takes, we take here, and it's checkmate once again because this king is blocked in by the pawns on g2 and h2. Let's go queen f2, queen f1, and we win. Alright, very good stuff. Alright, so let's have a look here. Now, material, let's once again do a quick material count. We see that both sides still have all of their pieces, right? Black is a rook, black is a queen, 2 rooks, 2 knights, and 2 bishops. White has a queen, 2 rooks, 2 knights, and 2 bishops. And you guys might be wondering, like, why am I always doing a material count? Well, that just helps us to think like what we should be looking for. If the material is equal, we don't necessarily have to find a checkmate, but winning material is also good. Anyway, so let's start thinking. Do we have any forcing moves? So we have a check, that's definitely a move we have to keep in mind. We also have 2 captures. We can take this pawn over here, or we can take this pawn over here. However, that doesn't really seem to lead anywhere. right? So let's keep digging in this direction. So to move queen h5, black only has one response, which is to move g6. So we start thinking, okay, do we have a follow-up? Well, so we have one check, but this is not good. Black recaptures. So then, do we have maybe a capture? Now, our queen is under attack, so ideally we would want to make a capture with the queen. Well, we can take here, which actually creates a threat. Once again, guys, these forcing moves are really important. Now, can black defend against it? Well, black can go knight f6 to block the queen's attack on the rook. Do we have a follow-up there? Do we have a capture? Because we don't really have any checks. Well, we have this capture over here, and that capture also creates two threats. We threaten to take the knight on f6. Black cannot recapture because that will put the king in check. And we also threaten to take here. Check the king and pick up the rook in the corner. If black takes our knight, we can recapture. And if black takes the knight on d5, well, guess what? The knight on f6 was blocking our attack of the rook on h8, which is now hanging. So we take that rook, we win exchange, and we win the game. And already this one might be a little bit complicated with all the arrows, but these are the moves that you have to look at in this puzzle. So already they are becoming more difficult. So let's send it in. So let's go queen h5. You can also try to do them move by move, but we also have to train our calculation. So let's go queen takes e5, and we go knight takes d5. Alright, very good stuff. We keep going. Alright, so the last one was pretty complicated. This one is a lot easier. The material is equal. Both sides have a rook, a bishop, and a knight. However, we see that white has a lot of pieces around this king. Do we have any checks? Thank you, Nemo, for the raid. Thank you so much. Hope all is well, Nemo. Hope you had a great stream. I've seen you play a lot of Lost Ark. Hope it's a fun game. And in general, hope all is well, Nemo. Anyway, guys, you all came at a great time. We are doing a educational puzzle speedrun, so hope you guys stick around for that. Take some notes, Peepo G. And I said Nemo, right? I didn't say Nepo. Welcome, yeah, once again, welcome everyone. Don't feel shy to say hi, and we will keep going. So let's have a look. Do we have any checks to the enemy king? Well, we see first of all that this king is kind of blocked in. I said Nemo, right? This king is kind of blocked in. This knight is taking away the square, and so this move rook f7 comes to mind. Because the king doesn't have anywhere to go, it's blocked in by its own rook, so that's checkmate. Okay, so go rook f7, and let's keep going. Alright, so let's have a look over here. Let's once again do a quick material count. Black has a rook, a bishop, and since we are in an endgame, pawns start mattering. So black has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pawns, and we have a rook, a knight, and 1, 2, 3, 4 pawns. We're down a pawn here, so we start looking for checks, and we have 3 checks. We have check over here, but it doesn't make any sense. Black just captures our rook. We have check over here, and we have check over here. So let's start thinking, which check makes the most sense? Well, if we go knight c7, we block the 7 rank, and black can go here, here, or here. So that is not really that appealing. However, if we go knight f4, the black king is forced to go here. And then that king is completely blocked in by all of its pieces, right? So can we give a check? Well, we cannot go here, it's captured. But we can give a check here. Is it checkmate, or does black still have any moves? Well, black has the move d5. Do we have a follow-up? Ideally a check. Well, we have rook takes d5, which is a checkmate. So let's go knight f4, rook a5, we capture the pawn, and it's a checkmate. Alright, let's keep going. Alright, so here, another pattern that we have not seen before. And once again, guys, this is why puzzles are so important. You see patterns that you don't usually see. You familiarize yourselves with them, and so you see them more easy in your games. Alright, so let's do a quick material count. Black has a queen, 2 rooks, and a bishop. We have a queen, 2 rooks, and a bishop as well. So black just played the move queen f4, which is threatening checkmate in one move. So ideally, we'd want to come up with something that is, that leads to a checkmate. So what checks do we have? We have 3 checks. We have a check over here, a check over here, and a check over here. Well, if we take over here, black takes with the bishop. That doesn't really change the position. If you can hear black takes, it doesn't really change the position either. Now let's have a look at this move. Well, black is forced to take, and then we can take with this pawn over here and open up the attack with our rook. Black has only one move, which is the move king to b8, and then we have rook a8, which is checkmate because this bishop over here is guarding this pawn on b7. So this is a pattern we've not seen before, but now, since we do this puzzle, we know. And also, let's check real quick. Can black somehow block on the a file? No, he can't. He cannot put anything on one of these squares to interpose, so queen b7 leads to checkmate. Alright? Alright. Now, we've seen this pattern before, so we should be able to solve this quicker. We see this king on e1. This rook on c2 is taking away some of the escaping squares. So can we somehow give a check to the king? That could be checkmate because it doesn't have a lot of room to go to. Well, we should start looking for checks. We can go rook c1, but then the king can move up. So we also have this move, rook b1, and our rook on c2 is still covering these squares, and it's checkmate. Once again, another ladder checkmate, a very important checkmating pattern. So let's go rook to b1, we checkmate, and we move on. Alright, so here we have another pawn in game. So in pawn in games, it very often comes down to a race. White has just played the move king to d4. So what does white want to do? White wants to go king to c5, capture this pawn over here, then capture one of these pawns, and start running the a or the c pawn of the board. Right, so we have two options. We can go king to d6, make sure that this king cannot step up, or we can go after this pawn over here. Because as soon as we... Thanks, Tribeca Castle, for the 20 gifted subs to the community. Thank you so much. Alright. As soon as we capture this pawn over here, we can start pushing our g pawn down the board. So let's have a look whether that works out, because it will become a race. So let's calculate. So we have king f5. If white goes back, he's too late. We go king g4. White cannot stop us from capturing this pawn. We create a passer and we win the game. So let's have a look. So king f5, king c5. King to g4, white captures over here, we capture over here. Let's see what happens. Let's say white takes here. We push our pawn. We want to start pushing our pawn as quickly as possible. Let's say the king moves back. We push. a4, g3, a5, g2, a6, g1 queen, and this pawn is still on a7. White has not queened yet. We have a new queen and we win the game. Alright, so we've done our calculation. We win. We are just one move faster, so we win. So let's go king to f5, king g4, we take, g5, we push, we push. He does the same thing with the c pawn, but once again, we queen one move faster. g3, this pawn is only on c6, so we win the game. Alright, very good stuff. Alright, what do we do at the beginning of every puzzle? We do a quick material count. Let's have a look. Black has a queen and two rooks and two knights. We have a queen, a knight, and a bishop. Alright, so we're down a lot of material. However, we see that the three pieces that we have are very close to the enemy king. So we want to start looking for checks. Can we create a checkmate somehow? So what checks do we have? We have three checks. We have queen h7 check. However, that is captured by the knight, so that's not really an option. Bishop d5 is captured by this pawn over here, so that's not really an option either. So the only move we have is queen f7. Alright, so black only has one move, which is to move the king in a corner, because our bishop over here is covering this square. Do we have a follow-up? Well, we have to move queen f8, which is a check. Black has only one move, which is to block with the knight. Do we have any checks here? Well, we do. We have to move knight f7, which is checkmate because the king is completely boxed in by its own pieces and the bishop is taking away the h7 square. Alright, so we go queen f7, queen f8, and knight f7. That's once again why checks are so important, and you should always look for them first, because checks could be checkmate. Knight f7. Alright, so we reach a rating of 900, which concludes another part of the speedrun.